We didn't really start taking off until we treated ourselves as a client. We gave one of our marketing strategists credit for boomtime as if we were a client, started doing exactly the things that we were doing for our clients, which we were seeing work really well. And so the same thing happened on my LinkedIn profile. So in a smaller company, the individual, the executive team, that's where the power is. We want to connect with individuals on LinkedIn. And so now I've got that organic growth occurring where people are just following me on LinkedIn because we're putting out lots of great stuff that's really helpful in growing your businesses.
This episode is brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. It's a program designed to help new and struggling sellers improve and take their skills to a whole new level. Get access to the first 2 modules absolutely free. Find more information at thesalesevangelist.com/free course. This episode is also brought to you in part by Sales Success Summit. This year's Sales Success Summit is held in Austin, Texas from October 14th through the 15th. Learn from the top 1%ers in sales what makes them succeed and how you can improve. Sign up today at top1summit.com. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And as you heard in the teaser, we have Bill Bice on the podcast today. And Bill comes with a lot of knowledge. For years, he's worked with companies who have used unsuccessful marketing strategies to try to grow their companies. So Bill decided to take on a problem himself. He started Boomtime, and this is a company that tackles marketing as a technology problem. Boomtime has helped many entrepreneurs drastically improve their sales. Primarily, they were B2B companies. So in this particular episode, he's going to talk to us about how he did that with utilizing marketing strategies that can help you optimize the way that you get new leads and also the way that you convert them. The advice Bill is offering right now, you could take and apply to your organization. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Hey, it's great to be here with you.
Man, I'm super excited to have you. I know we're going to have a fun conversation today because we're going to talk about B2B sales optimization. I know some people are like, if they're not in sales, they're like, oh my goodness, here goes somebody talking more about sales. But you get excited for this topic. I get excited for this topic. And I know our listeners listening to this right now, driving from work, is excited for this topic. So we're going to dive into that. But before we hit up on all the fun stuff there, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yes, I feel like I was born an entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 14, my first software company when I was 18. And
what?
The great thing about doing it at that age is that I had no idea what I didn't know. Like I just did it. And honestly, it took a really long time to build that company. That was a 15-year journey, but we ended up creating a great company. This was a software company in the legal market, where in any other market, it'd be called an ERP system. So it's the software that runs law firms. Mm-hmm. And we ended up selling that to sort of the 800-pound gorilla of the legal market, Thomson Reuters. And I've gone on since then to found or invest in a whole series of companies. And the reason that I really love the subject we're talking about here is that, it all really boils down to sales. Your go-to-market, how good you're at marketing, that really determines whether all that hard work pays off or not. And, those companies where we really nailed the go-to-market and we were just great at it, that's, of course, where we had the biggest success. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, because that's what really makes the difference in our businesses.
Well, this brings us very close right into, it just brings lines up perfect to the discussion, because you not only have seen this in your organization, but in the other organizations that you've had, as well as the clients that you've worked with. So I feel, especially if you're an investor working with companies, you've probably seen some people make some pretty good mistakes and done some things pretty right as well. So
I've made plenty of them myself. And that frustration, we all do this as business owners. We know we've got to spend money on marketing, but it's really tough to do, particularly if you're not seeing the ROI. And so I see the problem from the standpoint, I'm really a programmer at heart. And so for me, marketing is about the data. And following the data is really powerful because then you really understand what's working. And the hard part's actually, we have way too much data. It's how do we get valuable insights out of that data so that we can iterate and get better and constantly improve our marketing.
Okay, well, let's break up some definitions first. Sales optimization, what do you mean by that in the first place?
Well, so one of the, I do a lot of work with smaller businesses. One of the big advantages that you have in a smaller company is that you really can bring your sales and marketing together. Now, large companies, they're separate disciplines. They're often at odds. Marketing isn't really doing the support work that the sales team needs, and they just blame each other for lack of performance. In a smaller company, the CEO can just decide, or the entrepreneur can say, you know what, I'm going to really tie these things together. And I'm a big fan of the challenger sale approach, which was the research was done in Fortune 500 companies, but we've seen a lot of success using it for sales optimization in smaller companies. And it's really just taking a key insight driven approach to selling. And it's the perfect example of where if you tie your marketing and sales together, where marketing really is generating the insights that help salespeople, have better opportunities and better success with their prospects, you really can align those in a very powerful way.
Okay, this makes sense. And yeah, Challenger, if you guys haven't checked that out yet, we'll have a link in our show notes. Amazing piece of work, amazing piece of content and strategy that they've come up with. So I want to tackle, let's say I am a business owner and I want to optimize my sales. What are the top 3 things that I should be doing? And I want to break those 3 things down. Is that fair enough to lead in that direction, Bill?
Absolutely. And so we start with like the foundational elements, which are the things that every business needs to do. We need to be better at capturing leads. We need to be better at following up on those leads. And we need to stay top of mind with that now larger audience that we're growing. And in any sort of more complex, high value sale, a content-driven approach to marketing is the perfect way to optimize that sales process. So my goal is always to figure out where are we at with those 3 things? How do we make those better? And I'm really interested in any business that's already doing a good job of generating referrals at some level. Like you've done the hard work. You're taking care of your customers. They are telling other people. It's creating referrals. Now our job is really just how do we amplify that effect? How do we make that word of mouth work even better? And doing those 3 things is what makes that happen.
So let's go into capturing leads. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen that people make when it comes towards capturing leads? And maybe we could talk about some ways that we can fix those.
Yeah. So the first thing is that the thing that's most effective is micro commitments. It's, used to be your website was, if you're around long enough, it was a replacement for your yellow pages. People looked you up and called. It's so difficult to get people to pick up the phone now. So what we're looking for instead are small steps, micro commitments along the way. So the number one thing that I want is the email address for a prospective client. And that's the only thing I want. So if you just ask for the name, you're going to reduce conversion by 20%. You ask for the phone number, you're going to reduce conversion by 60%. And every additional field on top of that you add is going to reduce conversion by another 8%. So ask for the one thing you really want so that you can follow up with them, which is their email address. And of course, none of us want to just give out our email address anymore. It's not the 90s anymore. And so you have to be willing to do something that's really hard in order to get those referrals and capture those leads. And that's to give your best stuff away for free. Whatever the deepest and best expertise you have, that's what you need to give up in exchange for that really valuable thing, which is their email address.
Interesting. Yes. And so going back to those data, I think that's intriguing because especially go further back when we started the conversation, you talked about having the sales and marketing aligned and, helping them to be able to communicate. And what I've seen sometimes is marketing, they think, oh man, we need to capture as much information. So they put on the website or they tell salespeople, get all of this stuff. I want you to fill out this page of information so I can have good data for creating our buyer persona and doing, creating content. And in actuality, it's a disconnect from what salespeople are realizing that they're connecting with buyer. Am I off on that?
No, I think you're totally right. It's that traditional battle between sales and marketing, what qualifies as a qualified lead. And it's really just that same issue. And all we really want is to get people to follow us on LinkedIn and to get their email address. Because if we grow our audience in those 2 places and we're constantly sending people back to our website with, really high value insight, that's what works. It's not hard to understand the pieces. What's hard is to actually do the work, the day-to-day in the trenches, because it's the consistency that makes this work.
Interesting. You tie up the consistency part there, and I'm glad you brought that in. Because I would say someone is listening to this and they're like, yeah, our company has tried that before and it didn't work. If somebody was to say something like that, I know that this is totally hypothetical, but when they say stuff like that, which I know people have told you before, why do you think it didn't work for them in the past when it came towards capturing information on the website?
Well, so it almost always boils down to the two biggest mistakes in marketing, which is number one, talking about yourself. Nobody cares. Are the things you're talking about related to the problems that your target audience has and how you can help them solve those problems? So if you can have a content-driven approach to marketing that's all about, what your CEO ate for breakfast and the latest awards your company won, what the partners are up to, we do need to do that stuff as part of the marketing job, but that should be 10% of your content. The other 90% is entirely focused on what your audience cares about, the problems they're having, and the insights that you bring to them that are unique that they can't get from anywhere else. Because you actually have a really huge advantage, which is if you have any sort of niche in the market that your company serves, then you're working with hundreds or thousands of like companies that share the same problems. And that gives you perspective that any one CEO, any one decision maker in a company can't have because they're running their own business. And if you take advantage of that, particularly if your marketing department takes advantage of that, and then if you use that to train your sales team so they can take this key insight-driven approach, that's how you really break through. So that's number one mistake. Stop talking about yourself. And then number two is that lack of consistency. And you really have to commit to this kind of approach in your sales and marketing program. This needs to be a year commitment. This is not something you say, okay, we're going to try it for a couple of months and see if it works. We're going to see directionally in the data that we're getting there. But the only thing that really counts as working is generating more sales. And this isn't a miracle fix. You've got to make a long-term commitment to it.
Yeah. And I love that it has to be consistent. And I think, like you're saying, it takes time. And I'll give an example. For me, when we started a podcast, it took a while before we started to get some traction. But when we got traction, people started to come to the website or people started to come to connect with me on social media. And then opportunities started to grow from there. But it wasn't like, let me push send to Apple today, and then the podcast goes live, and then I have people jumping in. And it's the same idea. You have to be consistent. You have to see that you're sticking around and that it was going to make sense.
We didn't really start taking off until we treated ourselves as a client. We gave one of our marketing strategists credit for boomtime as if we were a client, started doing exactly the things that we were doing for our clients, which we were seeing work really well. And so the same thing happened on my LinkedIn profile. So in a smaller company, the individual, the executive team, that's where the power is. We want to connect with individuals on LinkedIn. You want a company page, you put content on there, but the action's going to happen on the individual profile pages. And so now I've got that organic growth occurring where people are just following me on LinkedIn because we're putting out lots of great stuff that's really helpful in growing your business. It's exactly what you've done with your podcast, but it does take time.
We're going to continue the discussion and go further and give you more ideas right after the break. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Way too often we find sales reps who become lethargic in their career. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, you've been there too. You just go into the slump and you feel like you can't get out. You're not closing deals, no new opportunities. And it's just blah. What I've seen to help me at that point is obviously listen to podcasts like this, read books, but also attend events where I can connect with other sellers. People who could challenge me, people who could bring new ideas and new thoughts. And that's why I recommend everyone to check out Sales Success Summit. The neat thing about this event is that you get a chance to connect with other top 1%ers, people who are doing amazing in sales. Learn from them what's making them succeed, what's causing them to get out of their rut, how did they elevate to the status they're at right now in their companies. If you are serious about earning six figures as a sales rep, I highly recommend you go to top1summit.com. Again, top1summit.com and register to attend the event. Last year, one of the attendees, a sales rep for a small company, went to the event. He networked with other top sellers. Since then, he landed a position at Teradata where he closed a huge deal. Now he's receiving a multi-six-figure commission check from it, all because he went where iron sharpens iron. If you want to learn from the best, go to top1summit.com and register today. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. As a young seller, I just didn't have it. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any help, and I had to figure things out on my own. Luckily, I was able to take part in a group training course. Not long after the course, I started to see a hockey stick in my sales performance, and I knew the stuff worked. So I started to talk about it and share the advice and ideas. And I said, in the future, whenever I create something, it's going to be similar to that. And that's how we've designed TSE Certified Sales Training Program. To get the first 2 modules of the course for free, go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/free course. When you register and become a member, you will get the other 10 modules, as well as access to our community of other sales reps that you can connect with and join conversation with each week. Find more information again, go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Hey, we're back. And as I promised, we're going to pick up where we left off, continue to outline what you can do and what your company can do to ensure that you optimize your sales performance. Business owners, don't get impatient. You got to make sure you stick it out, create the stuff, capture the leads. And then also, do you see right now, are there any type of thing that help capture prospects or people into your funnel better, like video versus text versus white papers versus checklists? What are some of your feedback and thoughts on that, Bill?
Well, they all work. The key is to test and iterate. So we have a real advantage in getting to start from a really good place because we're doing this for several hundred businesses and we leverage all of that data. But no matter how good your starting point is, you've always got to test because each of those works. And it's just a matter of what's best for the particular segment of the audience that we're targeting. And so the thing that I really see right now is even with the way the LinkedIn has exploded over the last year, the majority of B2B sales organizations are not leveraging LinkedIn the way that they could. It's just, I look at it as, yeah. It's the ideal networking event. Like this is the cocktail party that you get to invite only the people you want to meet. You don't have to eat high calorie snack food while you're there. It's ideal. And it would be the same thing as if I went to a cocktail party and said, I'm only going to talk to people I already know. So that's the first thing we have to do is get the executive team past that. Say, this isn't networking with people I already know. The whole point of this is to grow a new audience. And LinkedIn is just the easiest way to get your word out to a larger audience of exactly the right prospects. But you can't do it in a salesy approach. You really have to be there to help your network. And it's where this key insight driven approach is really effective because that's how you get people interested in what you're doing. Sharing those insights on LinkedIn, both in the initial connection and then in the follow-up afterwards with just a regular consistent posting.
Yeah. And I've seen too, if you're human, if you just be human with people when you're doing your LinkedIn interaction, you'll be amazed what happens. Because I feel that so many sellers that are on LinkedIn right now, the majority of them are there to obviously get people, but it's just so obvious, right? That it becomes so spammy or so salesy that it gets a turnoff. But if somebody can be a real human being and just produce great content, they're going to have a way better chance of capturing my eyeball.
Yes, we run a ton of campaigns on LinkedIn. We'll send for each profile, and it really works better for the executive team. It can work as an individual salesperson, but the best thing to do is to get the company bought into it, get the executive team that is who's building the audience, and that turns into sales opportunities for the sales team. And so we'll send 40 to 50 connection requests a day, every single day, follow up on each one of those accepted connection requests, and do that with a recently written article by that executive that has this insight-driven approach it's not salesy at all. It's really tackling a problem that your audience has and showing them how they can solve it. It's giving your best stuff away for free.
Awesome, man. So capturing the content, the next point you bring out when it comes towards optimization is, I want to make sure I had it right. Was it following up with those captured leads?
It is. So many companies actually generate all the leads they need. Everybody wants more leads, and yet the easiest thing to do is do a much better job of following up on the leads we already have. And, most companies, the sales team's not very good at using the CRM. So we're not getting them captured. We're not getting follow-up. So we created something called mailbox mining to go after this specific problem, which is go through the email boxes of everybody who's client facing and capture everyone and put them in your email list, put them in your CRM system. And then, of course, you should have a nurturing campaign that is following up on every single lead that gets generated, because salespeople are human and they tend to focus on things that are going to create a commission in the next 60 to 90 days. So when you get a great prospect that comes in that really is timing is 6 months or 12 months out, there's a good chance that's just going to get dropped on the floor. But if we put the systems in place and we capture them and we follow up with them, and then we use that data to understand when they're interested so that we can put a salesperson back on them when they start paying attention, it's really amazing what that does for your sales.
Interesting that you point out this one as the number two, because I felt the same way when I was a sales rep, where I didn't want to waste my time on things that it just, to be frank, wasn't going to happen right now. And then I was going to get into the follow-up zone where I just put blanketed follow-ups in my CRM to reach out to them. And I never followed those follow-up exactly. Maybe some days I did, but it just wasn't meaningful, right? And to be honest, I can tell you that I probably lost a lot of deals because I just didn't spend the time to do meaningful follow-up with them.
Yeah, that is the lowest hanging fruit in almost every B2B sales organization. And so doing those first two things, getting better at capturing the leads that are coming in, and then putting in marketing automation so that we're following up on every single lead that gets captured. I mean, how many trade shows do you come home from where there's really 4 or 5 people that actually get followed up on, but there were 100 contacts that were made? They are all valuable prospects down the road, just not right this second.
Yeah. Are there any particular CRM that you use that can capture and help out with both of this, the marketing and the sales side?
The thing that I actually hate CRM systems because they're designed for sales managers and they should be as a person. So we use Pipedrive. I mean, there's a lot of better CRM systems out there. I mean, for our market as a small business, Salesforce is just absolutely overkill. The thing I like about Pipedrive and a number of modern CRMs is they integrate your email system so that you see all the email interaction that's happening in the company with that prospect, which is really valuable. And the more we can automate around CRM, the more likely the salespeople will actually use it. I mean, we really have to make it a tool that makes salespeople's lives better and not just going to keep track of what my salespeople are doing.
Yeah. I've seen people who the managers who sit in become like a CRM disc jockey, so to speak. They just sit there and do reports all day. And it can be very distracting as well, where it's not helping you to help the sales team, but it's more, make you feel like you're getting something done because you're running reports. But no, let's figure out true problems and really help sellers.
Yeah, in an ideal world, the sales manager is using the CRM to get past that part of the weekly sales meeting that is just numbers driven so that you can really get into the heart of the matter, which is uncovering what the objections are. How do you help this salesperson be more effective in their job?
Love it, man. Well, here's a couple of thoughts more. I want to dive a little bit deeper into this. The third one, which is that the stay in follow up with them?
Yeah, so it's really staying top of mind with this larger audience. So now we're doing a better job of capturing our leads. That means we're building a larger audience. Once you put some real effort into that audience then starts to grow organically, because our goal is to give them social currency. So if we get back to the core thing, we want to take what really works, word of mouth, and we want to amplify it. And one of the best ways to do that is to give the audience that already knows you, your clients today, past clients, prospective clients you've already been talking to, give them the tools to create referrals for you. And if you're giving them a steady flow of really insightful and helpful content, then the next time they're having lunch with a peer and that issue comes up, you're going to have given them the perfect thing to talk about. And so as you do that, your audience then starts to share your content. You then start to get organic growth within that. And when you start to see that, that's when you really get the huge payoff from taking this approach.
Makes so much sense. What advice you would give to a small business CEO as she's listening to this and she heard that last step there to help her team, but she's still terrified? What advice would you give her to help her to get into it?
Yeah, I think everybody's terrified of this piece because the hard part is actually doing it. And I've never seen it, other than a early stage startup where you have the time to do it yourself. In a more established company, I've never seen it work to do this without a dedicated resource. You either have to hire a large enough team where they can literally do it, or the route I like. So we've got a network of 300 subject matter experts. that do all the writing. We don't do any of the writing for our clients internally. We go hire somebody who's already in that market, understands it well. We don't have to train them. We don't have to teach them. We just give them the bullet points of here's what we want covered. And it's the only approach I've ever seen work consistently to get that steady flow of really high quality content that you've got to have in order to feed a marketing machine like this. So you either have to go do the work to do that or get an outside resource that does that for you. But it's the only thing that really works. And it's tough because you're really talking about ghostwriting. And so what we've done is married having a subject matter expert with a team of editors that are really good at how do you capture that voice. And then we get the best of both worlds. We really have well-written content that has good insights in it, but then it matches that company's tone and the voice of that, specific executive at that company.
No, and
worth the effort of setting that up.
Yeah, because I can tell you that the fear of doing some of these at times have held me back from taking advantage of stuff. I mean, one too many time I've done that. I'm like, oh man, I can't write or I can't do this properly. I'm going to put this off to later. I'm going to do it later. But
it's so hard when you're staring at a blank screen, right? It's just,
oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's tough. And yet you have the ideas. Like I've never sat down with the CEO of a company and couldn't in 30 or 45 minutes come up with 6 months worth of editorial. You know your market, the ideas are there. The hard part is taking all that time to execute on them.
Yeah. Now, when the content is on your website and you do have you're creating blogs or you're consistently doing some of the stuff, or maybe it's like what you're sharing here where, top of mind content, you have a ghostwriter. On those pages, you're still having your lead capture, right? Because the goal is to get people to come back to that piece of content.
Absolutely. And it's really important that you manage the customer journey through that. So the reason we want to have everything go back to the website, we email newsletters of the old school approach are dead. You should send an email that's just got a stub for the article. It's focused on one thing with a catchy headline, and it drives you back to the website. You really know how many people are interested because you're going to see that on the click-through rate. And then you're going to link all those articles together on the website so that when that one email or that one LinkedIn post pulls somebody in, they can now follow the trail of crumbs and you can see what really interests them. And so the key is don't have any dead ends on your website. You shouldn't get to the bottom of the blog article and not have the next place to go. So the second most visited page on almost every B2B website is the About Us page. Who's behind the company? And yet 99% of the time, if you go to that page, it's going to be an extremely boring list of who the executives are and their bios. It's not going to sell you on the company. It's not going to take you to the next natural place that you should go to after that. So you're leaving it up to that prospect to figure out where to go, where you really want to control that customer journey and tell them the whole story. That's how you really improve the capture rate of leads, is by managing that journey on your website.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you, because as a sales rep, that's one of the places I go to a lot when I'm looking at somebody's company, their company page, go to their About Me page, you're trying to get information. It makes sense to have that there. And I think, corporate folks sometimes just feel, well, we need to show a professional look. We need to have ourselves in black and white pictures sitting next to a plant. That's it.
And you do want to be professional, but one of the big advantages that smaller companies have is you can put a face on the business. The reason someone's going to choose you instead of your much larger competitor is because there's a real person behind the business. They know that there's somebody that actually cares about them as a client. So you got to take full advantage of that. It's just a key advantage we have over our much larger competitors.
Love it, man. If there's one major takeaway you'd like folks listening to this episode to walk away with, Bill, what's that one major piece of advice?
It's really just, this absolutely works. You just have to do it, but it takes a longer term commitment. It's the number one battle that we face in marketing, which is there is no quick fix. It really does work, but it's a long-term commitment. But if you take this approach and you really tie it all the way through your sales team, this is the way that you have a dramatic effect on the trajectory of your company. There's a stat that comes out of the Challenger sale that I think really sums it up, which is that 53% of the why somebody chooses to buy from your company is from the sales experience. It's not your product, your price, your service, your delivery. It's how you were sold. So your ability to dramatically change the growth of your company just in improving how you sell is tremendous.
Love it, man. Well, this is amazing. If folks out there want to get in touch with you and to learn about your organization and see how you can help them, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, I love talking to business owners and marketing directors of about sales and marketing, I'm at CEO at boomtime.com. Website is boomtime.com. Easy to find on LinkedIn. This is my favorite thing to talk about.
Well, love it, man. Well, I definitely tell you're an expert at it. You have fun talking about it, and you bring a lot of great wisdom to it. So I appreciate your time and you being here with us today. So thank you so much.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Anytime. Told you guys Bill was going to come and deliver. He brought some great wisdom, some great insights, and I recommend that you go back and connect with him. You can find all the details in the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/word episode number 1178. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/word episode and the number 1178. While you're there, make sure to check out Sales Success Summit. Also, check out our group, TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We have a course beginning. Would love for you and your team to check it out and to join. Again, make sure to connect with Bill. Let him know that you heard him on the Sales Evangelist podcast. Tell him how you appreciate the content and how it's helping you and helping your team. I share this stuff with you because I want to help you. I've been there. I've seen the struggles. I've seen the challenges. I want to make sure you guys are improving. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to have more meaningful conversations. I want you to build stronger value. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the episode today as much as I did. And if so, I ask that you leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you find fine podcasts. Also, if you haven't done so already, why don't you go ahead and hit subscribe? Show your friends, your colleagues how they can subscribe as well. I will greatly appreciate you doing that. Thank you. My birthday is in the month of August. That could be your birthday gift to me. A nice review and rating on Apple Podcasts. I would truly, truly, truly be grateful for that. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Jershon O'Bale. Our graphic designer is Mr. Desin Cunado. Our show note was created by the one and only Miss Rael. Our guest coordinator is Mrs. May Marr. Our podcast production manager is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.